Join us now from the convention to talk about the party and Kamala Harris's economic agenda. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, good to see you. Always a pleasure.
Good morning. Great to see you.
Let's talk about how some of the stuff that we've been hearing. Whenever we have you on, you always emphasize that when it comes right down to it, you are a capitalist, and totally appreciate the system that we all operate under here in this country that generates a lot of the prosperity. Do you ever raise an eyebrow at some of the, maybe it's politicking, I don't know what you'd call it, but do you ever feel like maybe the corporations or the private sector is an easy target for populism, and maybe the party goes too far?
Our view is that we want a properly regulated, market-based economy that is good for the American people, good for commerce, good for industry, and good for business and job creation, that is also, of course, anchored in a strong social safety net connected to things like Social Security and Medicare. We just want to, under the leadership of Kamala Harris, lower costs, grow the middle class, and build an economy that works for hard-working American taxpayers. That's the plan, that's the vision, and, Joe, that is the track record anchored in the things that have been accomplished over the last several years, thanks to President Biden and Kamala Harris.
It just seems like there is a common thread running through a lot of what we're seeing, that, and for the past couple of years as well, that there's almost an anti-corporate rhetoric that comes maybe not from the mainstream of your party, but would you at least acknowledge that maybe at the far left that there maybe is too much anti-corporate sentiment or eat the rich sentiment, or is that does that populism to try to win elections? Would you acknowledge that, Leader Jeffries, or no?
I can speak on behalf of the House Democratic Caucus and the track record of accomplishments, which is how we should be judged based on when we had the ability to govern. In the previous Congress, under the leadership of President Biden and Vice President Harris, Democrats in control of both the House and the Senate, we passed an agenda that was anchored in the center and the center left from the standpoint of how we approach economic issues. We rescued the economy from a once-in-a-century pandemic. The economy has now emerged as the strongest of any economy in the developed world. Then we passed the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that is investing in our crumbling infrastructure and creating millions of good-paying jobs. We passed the CHIPS and Science Act, which is bringing domestic manufacturing jobs back home to the United States of America, anchored in a public-private partnership around the semiconductor industry. And then, of course, we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which is striking a dramatic blow against the climate crisis, setting our planet on a sustainable trajectory forward, and building a clean energy economy through the use of the tax code to once again incentivize public-private partnerships, and we're seeing a clean energy economy develop all across the nation. That's our track record.
Right, but Leader Jeffries, the stir of the drink, what makes it all happen is the private sector, and whether it's a partnership or whether it's the government in some way assisting the private sector to succeed on a global playing field. That's really the role of government. Maybe sometimes I think that might be less. Let me ask you about just price controls. And, you studied economics. You know how these things work. In the past, that has not been the most effective way to do things. And, to blame a lot of the current inflation on corporate greed, for 40 years, inflation didn't reach the levels that we saw from a couple of years ago. So it's just hard for people to understand how the price gouging, corporations were unable to do it for 40 years, and then suddenly they started doing it a couple of years ago, right when President Biden took office, and that is largely responsible for the inflation that we saw. Why suddenly were corporations able to do that, Leader Jeffries? Why hadn't they done it all along if they were greedy and profit mongers and everything else?
First of all, I haven't heard Vice President Harris talk about price controls. She's talked about making sure that there's no price gouging that takes place so that we have a properly functioning market where consumers have the ability to purchase the goods that they need at a fair market-based price without any unlawful activity that occurs. This should not be a controversial thing from the standpoint of wanting to make sure that we are lowering costs, allowing corporations and companies to function in the context of a properly regulated market-based economy, but we are driving down the high price of things like life-saving prescription drugs, making sure that people can afford groceries, because there are millions of Americans who are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. That should not be the case in America, the richest country in the history of the world. And we're going to try to lower costs, grow the middle class, and make sure that there's an economy that works for hard-working American taxpayers. That's not too controversial in the communities that I spend time in all across the nation.